This week, Techopia Live is on location at TD Place. We're checking out a soccer game from the Ottawa Fury, but the pitch is not the only exciting field that we're talking about. We're going to be digging into Agritech, an exciting industry here in Ottawa, talking to an Agritech entrepreneur, and also getting some insight from Startup Canada about how to succeed in this field and others. That's this week on Techopia Live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Techopia Live. I'm Craig Lord, your editor here at Techopia, and this week we're somewhere exciting. We're at Otto's Club at TD Place. We're going to check out an Ottawa Fury game right after the show, as I mentioned, but we also have an exciting audience, a live audience who's checking out the show today at our quarterly Techopia Talk event, where we bring out some VIPs and some members of the Ottawa tech community to network and enjoy Techopia Live. This week, as I mentioned, we're talking about Agritech. So I brought a couple of exciting guests to enlighten the conversation a little bit. We've got Brennan Turner, the CEO of FarmLead, and next to him we have Anastasia Valentine, the new Chief Executive Director of Startup Canada. And we'll start with you, Anastasia, just because you are new to the role. Could you introduce yourself a little bit to the audience and you know, where you come from in Ottawa's tech scene?
Sure. So I'm Anastasia Valentine, Chief Executive Director at Startup Canada. And the really cool thing is that I'm Ottawa born and raised, really active in the tech community here. And that's what my background has been, really in the commercialization and innovation of new products. So having that lineage, if you will, and that track record has really brought me to a place of working with big businesses, working with startups, having my own company, and then that really lends itself to every single thing we do at Startup Canada to serve the 3.5 million entrepreneurs across Canada. And we're going to lean on some of the insights that you can bring from Startup Canada to talk about an exciting field that is Agritech, one that Brennan Turner, you know very well. But before you tell me what FarmLead does, can you tell me, where do you come from? I believe it's a farm in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, so my hometown is Fond Lake, Saskatchewan. My family this year, we seeded about 52,000 acres across the province. So if you take Manhattan, quadruple it, that's essentially our farm. Spread out between multiple families now, you know, first cousins and aunts and uncles. But my connection to Ottawa is actually through hockey. I play in the Ottawa Senators organization. I won a Calder Cup in Binghamton, their farm team, but transitioned out of the professional athletics world to the technology, specifically ag tech, and Ottawa is a logical place to kind of build a company.
But tell me, what does FarmLead do? It's still got your roots there in farming, but how did it submerge into a tech solution? What does FarmLead offer?
Yeah, so basically, I spent some time on Wall Street doing commodity trade and analysis, and coming back to the farm during harvest time, I was looking at how the family was selling grain. It wasn't very efficient, and it was literally a phone call driven process, very high opportunity cost, and so started to develop software that basically provides a mechanism for buyers and sellers to meet more efficiently together in one place, and so today, and ultimately transact grain transactions. So we have, our user base consists of about 13%, or farmers behind about 13% of all North American production, and about 9% of all demand. And today we continue to grow. We're all across North America, but have been recognized a few times in terms of one of the most innovative companies in agriculture by Forbes on that list, and ultimately just trying to help digitize the relationships that you see in agriculture, specifically around the commerce cycle.
And thanks for sharing that. For those that don't know, FarmLead is one of those Ottawa startups that rapidly growing and making quite a name for a new field that you might not expect Ottawa to have a lot of specialty in, but agriculture is alive and well in Ottawa, and the technological applications as well. Anastasia, I believe Startup Canada just wrapped up its export challenge, and there was an Agritech theme or tie-in there. Could you tell us a little bit about one of those companies?
For sure. For our Canadian export challenge, we went from coast to coast, just visiting all kinds of towns, the large towns like Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, and towns like Whitehorse, where we were meeting with entrepreneurs who want to go global or have gone global. And one of the awards that we gave was actually last year was to Succeed, who are doing 100 product systems, so making innovations in that area. And we're seeing more and more people trying to solve problems with the agriculture industry through technology. Just similar to what FarmLead's doing, is really connecting people in what may have been a very relationship-driven and circle-driven industry through technology and making it accessible to everybody.
I think that's a really great segue. 'Cause Brennan, one of the things I'm curious about, and I plead ignorance, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but farming and agriculture strikes me as a very traditional industry that might resist change, might be slow to change. Have you found that with adopting new customers, that is there any resistance?
Yeah, there's definitely some stubborn people out there still and who are stuck in their ways, if you will, but I think with the younger generation and the technology, just be apps on your iPhone and whatnot, it's really it's provided a forcing mechanism for that older generation to adopt, and they're finding the efficiency gains in terms of simple things like GPS systems, bin management in terms of knowing what the quality is in the bin and making sure that there's no grain being spoiled. If I take it a step further, there's a lot of hardware and IoT things that are happening, precision agriculture. So I know that I shouldn't be putting as much crop inputs down in this part of the field because there's already a lot of naturally occurring nitrogen or phosphate or boron or other elements that are critical to growing a crop. So the efficiency gains ultimately result in productivity gains. You're able to grow a better crop, a bigger crop, and ultimately that adds to the bottom line. So I would say it's not just happening here in North America, but really around the world. I mean, these technologies are being adopted at a faster rate in places like Brazil, Argentina, Russia, Ukraine, and then even into smaller agricultural places or communities in places like India and even China now. So it doesn't matter if you run a large operation like my family does, or a couple hundred acres, or even in some cases, just a couple acres. The technology's application is very significant.
Yeah, we've come a long way from the days of just farmers' almanacs and
exactly.
Just praying for rain.
Well, I won't lie. I think most farmers this year, especially because it's so wet in some areas and very dry in Western Canada, I think we're still looking for a better weather forecasting solution. Hasn't come up yet.
I'm curious, you mentioned North America is where your customer base is, so you're doing a lot of business in the U.S. What have been kind of the challenges actually you've run into in doing trans-border business? Is there anything that you can offer as a tip to make sure that when you land somewhere like the States, you're going to do it successfully? Yeah,
I think the biggest thing is really focusing on the human resources side of things in terms of some of the paperwork that's required to potentially file with the individual states. There's slightly different health insurance dynamics that you have to deal with in Canada versus what you would see in the US. And then also you have just on a state-by-state basis trying to figure out proper reporting mechanisms for tax purposes and whatnot. And so ultimately that HR side of things, if you can kind of nail that, you're pretty good to keep going. Now there are some tools and technologies that help keep it more simple. They simplify it for you. And you can opt into those if you so desire, but just be on top of the people side of the things, and I think you're going to be able to be successful.
And Anastasia, I know going global and helping to scale internationally is one of the focuses of Startup Canada. Sure. Is that similar to what you're hearing? What else can the organization offer us in terms of what do I need to do to go global?
That's a great question. So, I mean, we heard loud and clear from everyone who attended the Global Export Challenge, and that's ranging from people who I don't know where to start to I want to go much bigger than I am today. And the biggest challenge is really not knowing how to navigate the system, whether you're shipping a widget or having technology or delivering services, is really having to navigate all the nuts and bolts of doing business in another country, as well as understanding the market and satisfying that need, solving that problem. So making sure that you understand that market and use partners like the Trade Commissioner and like Startup Canada to help you through that process and guide you. Because you're not alone. I think a lot of organizations just never try because they believe it's such an onerous process. And no question, it can be. But once you get through that process and get through it, let's say with one country, you might be more prepared for the next step and the next step as you go totally global.
Well, I want to thank you very much, both of you, for giving us insights not only into Agritech, but lessons learned from the field that we can apply across our businesses and attempts to go global. So to both of you, Anastasia and Brennan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Please stick around because there's going to be a great Ottawa Fury game in a couple of minutes. Before I let you go and before I let the rest of our audience keep talking again, I want to thank some of our sponsors without whom Techopia Live would not be possible. I want to start with Number Crunch, offering virtual CFO services to SaaS firms. There's Perley-Robertson, Hill & McDougall, a leader in business and tech law. There's TD Bank, we are in TD Place, in fact, offering specialized services for tech firms. There's Stratford Managers, offering services to help you scale up your tech venture. There's University of Ottawa, Faculty of Engineering, creating the next generation of technical talent, and KRP Properties, offering so much more than just space. Now, Techopia is not just this great show and this great event. We are also available online at obj.ca/Techopia with daily articles covering Ottawa's tech scene. You can find us on social, on Facebook and Twitter at Techopia OTT. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please leave us a like or a comment. We would love to hear from you, and subscribe to see more of our weekly tech interviews. Apart from that, I just want to thank you very much for joining us for this special episode from TD Place. We'll see you next week for the next episode of Techopia Live. Thanks.